Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Wednesday morning to you all. Hope you guys are doing well out there, feeling well, staying safe, staying cool. It's very hot even this morning for a lot of portions of the southern U.S., really talking about the southern plains. It's going to be another hot one today. We'll discuss that in this video. But another thing about the southern plains is we're going to experience some nasty storms later this evening into the overnight hours, where I'm expecting a pretty intense round of storms that begins maybe in southwest Kansas, the panhandle of Oklahoma, sweeps across most of the state of Texas. So we're going to discuss that. We're going to talk about the rest of the high plains and how they can experience some nasty storms today. We'll give you an update on this upper level low that continues to spin and plague the southeast with rounds of very heavy rain. Even some of these storms have reached severe limits. Florida could see a lot of rain today, areas of Georgia, the Carolinas, up to Virginia, just in general the southern Alps region, and the entire southeast could experience a lot of rain today. We'll give you an update on that. That has been the general pattern over the last couple of days, so nothing new there. This is going to last throughout the rest of the week, but we'll give you an update on who could see the most today. And then we'll also give you an update on the tropics towards the end of the video, and then we'll kind of give you a more detailed update on the tropics, and then discuss the severe weather risk really coming up maybe into this weekend for areas of the country that normally see severe weather this time of the year, and that is the high plains, the northern portions of the lower 48. So we'll discuss that because that could be a bigger severe weather event. Some people ask me about that in the comments, like, hey Mitch, why didn't you discuss this in the evening video? We'll discuss that in tonight's video, so stay tuned for that. If you folks have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. If you ever consider joining the channel, I'm on a mission to try to get to 40 members by the end of summer. That's a long shot hope or goal, but I'm around 30 right now. It's taken about 2 years to get to 30, but I appreciate people who support my channel in that way. And I appreciate folks, as always, I always will say this, that just make my channel a daily routine. It means the world, and I certainly appreciate every single one of you guys. If you guys got anything that I can pray about, I'll pray over. As always, please put it in the comments below so I can do that. I can pray over it, and so others can do so too. Let's get rolling here. Water vapor loop out here shows the pattern pretty well. And really what we got going here, and we'll get the little clicker going, is we got this upper level spin. This low is somewhere right in here, and dang, that stinks. It doesn't look like it's going to work for me this morning. That happens from time to time, but we got an upper level low spin right here. We got a ridge. If you notice, the water vapor right here is kind of moving in from this way, and then it crashes back down that way. We have an upper ridge built into Texas right now, and we also have big time storm development already going on this morning in portions of the middle of the country. And not a lot of this is severe limits, but we definitely have a lot of shower and storm activity in Nebraska, Kansas, South Dakota, and then we have ongoing rounds of heavy rain and storm activity across the southeast also. So there's a lot going on today, including what's going on out in the Atlantic with the tropics. So we'll definitely got a lot to discuss in this video. And we actually do. We do have a severe thunderstorm warning here in southern Kansas, the southern extent of all these storms. But there's a lot of rain falling in areas of central South Dakota, central Nebraska, and then central Kansas. We really need this rain into Illinois, Missouri, Iowa, Indiana. It's getting quite dry. I've heard a lot of people saying it's getting very dry in Illinois, but you can see this upper spin that I was trying to draw on the water vapor loop. Sorry about that, guys, but you can see the spin pretty well here. There's a little spin. If this radar was in motion for a longer period of time, you would see it a lot better. But I mean, you got rounds of downpours, storm activity, and these are tropical downpours too. I mean, they are unleashing a lot of rain very quickly. I picked up over an inch of rain last night here in my location in central South Carolina. Raining pretty good in the Delmarva area, Maryland. An area pretty, I wouldn't say intense, but you got an area pretty heavy rain about to move more so into the eastern areas of North Carolina, and then you got a lot of rain falling in Florida this morning. You look at the Storm Prediction Center on what's going on today. The severe risk of storms is right in here. I won't be surprised one bit if they put a little enhanced risk right into here. I wouldn't be surprised at all, and I'll talk about why here in a second. Right down here in the eastern panhandle of Texas, down into sort of north central Texas, down to Abilene. I would watch this area today. We'll discuss that in more detail here in a second, but slight risk extends all the way up into southeast Wyoming, western sections of Nebraska. There is a tornado threat up here, a higher tornado threat, better kinematics And we'll see this here. There's a little 5% risk of a tornado in the brown area within 25 miles of any given location of a tornado. All right, Cheyenne, you're included in this, and then a very small section of Nebraska and Colorado and Wyoming. Wind threat today, check it out. You got a 15% risk of winds exceeding 50 knots or higher in both of these yellow areas, but you have a hatched risk down here. This is what I'm concerned about. Complex of storms developing right up here and sweeping south across Texas in the overnight hours. So you also have a 10% risk of significant winds, which is 65 knots or higher mile per hour readings. That's over hurricane force winds, around 75 miles per hour. A little bit of a wind threat here also with this marginal risk of storms in South Georgia and Florida. Hail risk today. Both areas have a hatched risk, which means you have a 10% risk in the black outlined area of hail exceeding 2 inch in diameter or larger. This entire 15% risk area, that is a 15% risk of hail exceeding 1 inch in diameter or larger. So hail will be a threat with any storms that get going today. Hail threat, though, down here is pretty low. Normally when you have a really rich tropical air mass in the moist column, the moist air is all the way up in the upper levels of the atmosphere. You don't have much dry or cool air aloft. You're not going to have much of a hail threat. And really, this upper level low has really lost any kind of cold core it had aloft. It's really just a low pressure spinning around now and just ripping in tons of low level moisture across the southeast. And speaking of that moisture, we have a slight risk of flash flood guidance being met across a large portion of Georgia, western South Carolina, into southwest North Carolina, and then the Panhandle and Big Bend regions of Florida. There is a slight risk. I could see a moderate risk being issued in the later updates here. That would be at least a 40% risk of flash flood guidance being met. You also got the slight risk into this region here in the yellow, and that's a 15% risk of flash flood guidance being met. You look at the watches, warnings, things like that. Flood watches have been extended all the way from southwest Virginia all the way down to the Big Bend Panhandle regions of Florida. And this includes several counties in South Carolina and a whole lot of counties in Georgia, where I think that the rainfall will probably be more enhanced today with the movement of this upper level of this low pressure that's going to favor more rain maybe in Georgia today. We'll certainly see how that materializes. Currently, you have a severe thunderstorm watch in Kansas, and then a whole lot of counties in Texas has excessive heat warnings. The orange is heat advisories. The purple is excessive heat warnings. So it's going to be hot again today. I think it'll be a tick cooler today, but it's still going to be blistering hot out there. We'll take a look at the southeast first, and we always take a broad look at this first for any new viewers, and we'll get this in a spinning motion here, and we'll just roll over the next 24 hours. And really what I want you to focus on is the spin, right? See how everything's kind of spinning? You can really see the spin over Alabama and Georgia, spinning. Really, everybody on the eastern and along the low pressure, eastern, northern side, and even south side of this low pressure, you just are getting funnels of moisture into this region, and it continues round after round after round, especially Florida today. It looks like you guys could get a lot of rain today. So if you zoom into each individual region that I think could see the most rain, and I don't want to ignore you guys in Kentucky. Kentucky, I think you get some light rain, some heavier rain as possible as far west as Nashville, Huntsville, Alabama, Birmingham. You guys could certainly get some shower activity, even as far west as Mississippi. I think most of it's going to be right here in the immediate southeast. You take a look at Florida, you already are dealing with a big old complex of storms this morning, dumping a lot of heavy rain along the peninsula of Florida. I think more showers and storm activity now. This isn't exact science. I say this every time. This could be off. In fact, the HRRR model didn't do well in the Carolinas yesterday. It was showing a lot of storm activity yesterday afternoon in the Midlands of South Carolina. It really didn't move in until late yesterday night. So, you know, it's definitely not a grand conclusion. I always tell you guys that, but it's just kind of one of those days where you just look at a radar and, you know, you ask somebody who knows a lot about the weather, hey, man, is it going to rain at 3 o'clock in the afternoon? And you're asking, 5-6 hours prior. All you can really say is there's a good chance of rain. And my wife asked me that a lot, and I'm just like, baby, there's a solid chance of rain. I can't tell you yes or no. And I hate not being able to tell somebody yes or no, but it's always difficult when it comes to these kind of setups. But what I can tell you is Florida, round after round of strong storms are possible, And not all these will hit severe limits, but you do have a marginal risk over the entire state of Florida. So some of these can pack a punch. You get around maybe about midday to early afternoon again, and then another round moves in. You could have some big-time shelf clouds move into the Tampa Bay region. Very photogenic storms are possible. We'll see what happens with that. And then more rounds of storms moves over the peninsula of Florida into the overnight hours, and then maybe you're waking up to more storm action up here in northern Florida, but it can be anywhere, guys. It really could. This gets all the way out into tomorrow morning. But rainfall between now and the next 24 hours, it really likes kind of Gainesville points west, Big Bend areas of Florida. Really, 2, 3, 4 inches of rain is possible. 1 to 2 inches of rain is possible in the Tampa Bay region. You can get some rain as far south as Miami and especially north, but, it's just one of those days where you got to really see what's falling from the sky. And the National Weather Service really likes this region of Florida the most. And then you get into South Florida, a lot of where you got the flood watches, a lot of rain's possible into this region. You move up north to the Carolinas, Virginia, the Southern Alps region, rounds of storms. One thing I want to watch is this region of northwest South Carolina, northeast Georgia. I think that you're going to have a hard time breaking free of the rain all day today. I think if anybody's going to get just a widespread lot of rain, it's going to be maybe this section right into here. Okay, but as you get into the afternoon, the evening hours, you could get a clearing. The sun may come out. For example, yesterday I wasn't expecting the sun to really break loose in central South Carolina. It did. It put enough oomph to the atmosphere to make for some strong to severe storms. We had a nasty storm last night, frequent lightning. I enjoyed it. And, it didn't cause massive damage or anything. It really just dumped a lot of rain. It was a nice, summer thunderstorm. And speaking of summer, today's technically your first day of summer, so welcome to summer. Always consider June 1st the first day of summer. It makes it seem like it already started, and then we're that much closer to fall, and you guys know I love fall. But anyways, rounds of storm moves through. If you look at the ACRR model, it really likes a pretty decent line of storms that works its way from south to north and then sweeps through eastern Georgia, South Carolina, eastern sections of North Carolina. We'll see if this happens, and then more rain moves in overnight, and when we're waking up tomorrow morning with just the same kind of deal that we're waking up this morning, just on and off heavy downpours. It's the same general theme. So basically everybody in this area stands a decent chance to see rain. And sure enough, the only area that probably won't see a lot of rain today, I would say, is once you get into northern Kentucky. But West Virginia, you guys could, I would say if you're more so on the eastern side of the state, you could see some measurable rain. But Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, most model guidance likes a weird little gap right here in central North Carolina where you won't get quite as much rain today. We'll see if that happens. But man, northeast Georgia, eastern Georgia, southern and western sections of South Carolina, it really likes to hit you guys hard with multiple inches of rain. We'll see if this materializes today. Chattanooga, maybe an inch or two of rain. Atlanta, half inch to an inch of rain, certainly possible. The northeast, it'll be quieter today for sure. It's really been quiet. I say that like it wasn't quiet yesterday, but it really was. But the only area that I'll see, I can see, a steady rainfall most of the day is the Delmarva region right in here, Delaware, Maryland, northern VA. It's already raining out there this morning. I think steady rain continues to fall throughout the morning, throughout the afternoon hours. And this is more, not so much in the form of storms, just, a steady light to moderate rain into Virginia, Maryland, northern VA, the Delmarva, Delaware, getting as far north as maybe southern PA, central and southern New Jersey. But I think that is a pretty good cutoff. This could make it, you could get some showers in the middle of the night all the way up to Long Island, New York City, Pittsburgh, Scranton. But I think that as we're waking up tomorrow morning, I think that this is when your chances for maybe some rain begins to increase for the northeast. And I think as we get into tomorrow, you'll start to get more moisture from this low pressure spin that I think will eventually meander further north and then give you guys some more rain chances up into the northeast. I don't think you guys are going to complain about rain too much in the northeast because sometimes it can get quite dry in New England. And I think you guys are still below average with rain up there. I haven't checked. I need to monitor the drought monitor a little bit more. But Texas, this is an interesting story today and something I really want to watch. And I can tell you the NAM and the HRRR model are all on this. I compared both before I made the video, and you're getting going into this morning. I can tell you first off, the HRRR model is depicting more shower and storm activity in this region. And if you compare this with the actual radar, what's falling, it shows it. It's just not as intense. But it's doing a good job symbolizing that there's weather there, but just not as intense. You work your way into the later morning hours. This outflow boundary will probably pop off here, prevent temperatures in this region from cooling too much. This will probably drive some moisture down to southern Kansas, make it all the way maybe into northern Oklahoma, but this will eventually fizzle away before maybe it gets to Tulsa, Oklahoma City. But this is what I want to watch for here. And I'll go on and get this in motion, and we're going to talk about this complex of storms right here. I would say there's more of a conditional threat all the way down to Texas, really. But you do have a slight risk here in western Kansas, the panhandle of Oklahoma, eastern Colorado, but you might not get a drop of rain. But the storms could be more widespread than what is shown. We're going to talk about you folks in Colorado here in a second. But really, you do have a chance for severe weather in this region. Okay, it's not going to be widespread. This is the complex of storms I'm watching. Let's go on and zoom into this. So this starts off, and we're at 5 p.m. Back this up 1 hour because this is in Eastern time. We're at 5 p.m. Central time. All right, you see it's right at around 5 p.m. Yeah, it explodes on the scene in the panhandle of Oklahoma. I mean, if you're near Liberal, Kansas, Guyman, Oklahoma, it could be one of those things where you're enjoying a nice day, it's hot, whatever, and all of a sudden, bang, storms explode right on top of you. And, I hate to say it, but Perryton, you guys could get some big-time storms around late afternoon, early evening. I know you guys got hit by the tornado pretty bad last week, but please be aware of some storms. These storms quickly grow upscale, and they begin to sink in general south to the east, southeast, but south-southeast, I would say. More south than east, if you get what I'm saying. But, you get to about 7 p.m., these storms are slamming areas like Canadian Texas. They're coming down to Wheeler, Texas. They could also nick southwest Oklahoma. I would watch out in this region, too. At this point, it's probably affecting Childress, Wellington, Shamrock. Obviously, Shamrock then down to Childress because that works from north to south. Mangum, Altus, watch out. Right here tucked in, Hollis, El Dorado, please, in these areas of Oklahoma, as you get into the late evening hours, I would say, not even late evening, but the evening hours, 8, 9, 10 p.m., these storms could work its way through. But then you work your way into about the midnight time frame. Now, this is about 11 p.m. Just note that these storms could be extended further west. They may be extended further east, but if anything, I would buy them being extended a little bit further west, into western Texas. But, these storms are marching through. They could affect Vernon, Texas. I'm looking at Google Maps, why I keep looking down. And these continue to blast through here, and they start to affect northern areas of Texas in general. Wichita Falls could get into it. They could affect the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And then they take on more of just a southeast approach. And, you got to think, these have marched at this point from about 5 p.m. to about 2 a.m. That's a good bit of movement. So I think these storms are going to explode. With this line of storms, you're going to have damaging winds, large hail. Don't see much of a tornado threat with this. But this is going to be definitely, it could bow out. And that's why you have a hatch risk for damaging winds down here. You could get some 75, 80, 85 mile per hour wind gusts with this area of storms that move through. So, basically, it could slam Waco tonight, Abilene, watch out. And this works its way. We take it all the way to about 5, 6 a.m. This works its way all the way to Houston, Corpus Christi, and you're waking up probably tomorrow morning to some shower and storm activity, some of which could be severe. So, here it is. I would say that if you live from up here in the eastern panhandle of Oklahoma, Shamrock, Wellington, Childress, Paducah, Quanah, Vernon, Texas, Seymour, Abilene, Albany, Breckenridge, Graham, all the way up to Wichita, watch out, Fort Worth, Mineral Wells, Weatherford, all the way down into central Texas, Keelan, Gatesville. I'm just spitting off a bunch of names. Watch out, Austin. Austin, Texas. You guys might be a little bit too far west, but just watch out for this storm. These storms later on today. They are tonight. They really could pack a punch. But before the storms move in this area, heat indices reaching well over 105, 110, 111. Oh, I'm going to say 115 degrees a day. Some areas will hit 120 again today. I saw a heat index yesterday, and I mentioned this in last night's video. They hit 127 degrees. That's absolutely ridiculous. It's just not right to have air temperatures in the upper 90s to low 100s with dew points in the upper 70s. That is it's like another world. That is just that's something you see like in the like on the other side of the world, you know, where like the Middle East or something like that, where you get these flow off these bodies of water, and you kind of have the desert air, but it's moist air, and yeah, it's just this is just miserable. It's miserable out here, and what is it, Dubai or something like that? Sometimes they have dew points in like the low 80s with air temperatures in the upper 90s, and you know, with the heat index of like just well over 110, 120 degrees. I don't know how anybody can even live somewhere like that, but I feel bad for you folks in Texas. And I certainly am hoping that things change soon. But you got that a mega block right over the region. You got ridging right over the area. And it just stinks right now for you guys. I'm definitely hoping it improves. But the north central U.S., I want to show everybody. And once again, very dry for the Midwest, upper Midwest. No rain for Illinois. I'm sorry to give you guys bad news. And to be honest, I'm not sure when you guys are going to get rain. Maybe we'll dive into that a little bit later today when I get some slow time at work, and we'll try to figure that out for you folks. And when I think you might get rain again, but it's getting dry out there again. And we get into this afternoon, no rain really expected for Iowa, Minnesota, Michigan, Illinois, Missouri, and northern areas of the Ohio Valley. No rain expected, but the Dakotas a different story. Some powerful storms could sweep through, and we'll go on and zoom in for the northern plains. Working our way through the morning, we'll get rid of the morning convection, and then we'll watch for a couple supercells that might get going in western Nebraska. These could be intense. They could be, excuse me, they can be kind of slow moving also. So if you're a storm chaser out here and you just happen to live in this region, or you're chasing this, these, you know, could be some very photogenic storms. Some of those pictures of supercells you see put on like posters and books and stuff like that. This is what this is made of out here. This is kind of the perfect setup for this. You're going to have isolated, very strong storms. Of course, for the people who live out here, you know, you don't care nothing about no photogenic storms. You just don't want to hit your neck of the woods. So, but I would watch out. The tornado threat is more elevated in this region right in here, where Nebraska, northern Colorado, and then Wyoming meet. So even though you don't really see widespread storms in this area, I would watch these little cells into here near Cheyenne, for example. These could produce a tornado, and then they might develop a little bit more upscale, and then develop into more of a line of storms into the overnight hours and begin to sweep across areas of South Dakota, and then western sections of Nebraska, and then northeast Colorado. And then you'll wake up tomorrow morning with just the leftover convection. But, you know, up here in Montana, you guys could certainly get a strong to severe storm or two in eastern Montana. And then I think that you're going to get some strong storms in North Dakota too, you know, firing up as early as 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Storms fire up here. And, you know, I would say especially if you're in southern, the southwest North Dakota, some powerful storms could certainly get going here. But if you look at the updraft Felicity swath for this region down here, it really is picking up on these storms down here. You see how it's more highlighted down here in southeast Wyoming, western Nebraska, northeast Colorado. I really think we're going to get a tornado or two out of this. It could be very photogenic. Hopefully it's just out in the plains out here. This is called the high plains for a reason. Lower population for most out here. Let's hope that, you know, we just get, if we do get a tornado, that it's not affecting any kind of small towns or communities or farms or anything out here, pastures. But you definitely could get a tornado in this region of the country today, so please be aware. The rest of the Rockies, it's pretty quiet. Not a whole lot going on. You're probably going to get some amped up moisture here and areas of Montana, especially southern Montana, that eventually will drift into central Montana. And then as we get into the evening hours, you'll get some heavier rain, even some storms, like I said, in eastern Montana that kind of works its way through the state. But the rest, of kind of the western U.S. It's your first day in a while where you don't really have widespread rains in Idaho, Oregon, Washington State. There might be some showers there, but it's pretty quiet out west for the most part. Not a whole lot going on. Temperatures, we know it's going to be a blazer in Texas. We already talked about that. Rain, cooled air will dominate the southern apps. Might not get out the 60s for areas and 50s for areas in the mountains of Virginia, West Virginia, North Carolina, and Tennessee. It'll just be rain, cooled air. But where you don't have the rain and clouds falling, I mean, it'll warm well into the 80s. For example, Ohio, Indiana, Michigan, some 80s, the low 90s. Cooler air up here in the Northeast. It's always difficult to just get into a concrete summer pattern up here. So you still got 60s and 70s. I mean, Boston, you can get cold fronts any time of the year, really, up here. But I got a buddy that I work with, and he lived in Connecticut. I believe he was in eastern Connecticut, and he says it can get very hot and humid up there, too, at certain times of the year. And I believe it. I think you guys got into the mid-90s like back in March or April. So, it's kind of weird up there sometimes, but you're still just hanging on to more spring-type conditions up here. Hot across this portion of the country with this ridge of high pressure is dominating here in the Mississippi Valley in the Midwest and the upper Midwest. Highs well into the 80s, upper 80s, and it's drying out very quick. Temperatures out west still below average. You're still only getting into the 40s for the higher elevations, 50s even in some of the valleys, 60s and 50s, and it's just remaining cool. Enjoy this in the valleys of California because we all know it can get very hot for you folks, but only the 80s, maybe some low 90s. The desert Southwest, not very hot. I mean, 90s and 100s. It's hotter in Texas than it is in the desert in Arizona, Nevada, and California. So, I mean, hey, we'll take it. But an update on the tropics. Bret is 1,001. I'll make sure I won't say 101. 1,001 millibar low pressure. It's a 60 mile per hour storm. That's the latest update from around 5 a.m. So it's strengthened. It's went up 10 miles per hour. Actually, technically 15 miles per hour since the video last night. So this thing has gotten stronger. So it's holding its own despite a little bit of shear that it's dealing with. And I told you last night that I thought it had a chance to get a little bit stronger over the next 24 to 48 hours. It's gotten a little bit stronger. We're still watching this Invest 93L. Has a 70% chance to develop in the next 48 hours. This may not end up becoming a tropical depression. It would be Tropical Depression 4. We'll see what happens. Regardless, even if this was developed into a full-fledged hurricane, I don't think it's going to impact anybody but fish and whales. So I don't think it's a big deal. Now this could impact the Lesser Antilles. I mean, Martinique, St. Lucia, Barbados. I mean, these areas like that have tropical storm watches. And this is still expected to hit, to maintain tropical storm status. As of now, not expected to become a hurricane. That might change. If this continues to improve throughout the day especially, you might get an H in this forecast like we saw a couple days ago, reissued, but we'll see. But right now, this is chugging along, and it's expected to weaken into a depression by the time it gets south of Jamaica by late this weekend. Another way to look at this is Zoom Earth. It's an awesome site, guys. It is awesome. I'm telling you, it's free to the public. Literally just type in Zoom Earth, and it's literally like Google Maps, but for the tropics. And the sun is coming up on this thing. That's why it goes from black to more bright. But as you can tell, Dominica, Martinique, St. Lucia, Barbados, tropical storm watches up for you folks. No upgrade to warnings. We expect this to change probably sometime today. You'll probably get some warnings. But as of now, this is still expected to probably pass somewhere over St. Lucia, the technical area of the center of low pressure, or Martinique. So I expect the worst weather to probably be on the northern to eastern side of the storm. So wherever the center of low pressure is, just north of it, I would expect the worst weather to go. But here it goes. It's chugging along here. And then it gets into the Eastern Caribbean where it'll meet its demise more than likely. But you take a look at it this morning. It was doing very well overnight. It did very well overnight. And we even got some big-time convection ongoing right here with 93L. And if you're wondering what these colors are, basically, here's the color scheme over here. The further you get down this, once you start to see purples, the colder the cloud tops are, which means these storms are very high up in the atmosphere, reaching colder temperatures. So in this case, you had a big-time explosion of convection earlier this morning. This has since tempered down, but it almost looks like there's another area of convection about to get going again. So we'll see how Bret does today. We'll see what it does, and we'll give you an update on Bret a little bit later today. That's all I got, guys. Thank y'all for tuning in. God bless all y'all. Have a great day, and I'll talk to you soon.